Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it has been less than a minute since I finished recording my interior offensive line video, the previous positional video that I recorded. We're going to be doing the top 15 edge rushers of the 2025 NFL Draft in this video. Edge position is the fourth most predictive according to the measurables, the physicals, and the athletic numbers, the stuff that you see done at the combine. So you can check out previous, less predictive positions in videos that I have already released. Interior offensive line, wide receiver, cornerback, linebacker, offensive tackle, running back, interior defensive line. All those links down in the description to those, as well as links to a bunch of other stuff, links to my top 90 rankings, which should be increasing up to my top 300 or so by the time we get done with this. 400. I have 442 prospects totally ranked. You can go and check out on the Discord channel strengths and weaknesses for most all of those prospects, other notes on those players that I've scouted, and you can also find up on the website link to my mock draft 1.0, my 2.0, the big mock draft release, the predictive mocks where I'm really trying to nail it, and my 3.0 will be coming out as soon as possible. I'm recording about 4 or 5 videos right now, and then I've got like 5 videos to edit as well, and thumbnails to make, but we are starting to pump this stuff out because I fell behind. So there we go on that. That's going to bring us on to the video, and there are some honorable mentions to begin this thing. First up, we've got honorable mentions 1 and 2 there. Barron Sorrell and Kaimon Rucker. Both are very strong, and they use their power very well, but they are also undersized in one aspect or another. Kaimon Rucker has solid length for his height, but he is exceptionally short at 6'1", and Barron Sorrell, on the other hand, has the height, but he lacks any length. Then we've got the third guy there, Ja Joyner. He's quick, he has heavy hands, he's got some pass rush moves, and he controls blocks really well. I think that he could get on the field and give some sort of significant contribution by the later portion of his first season. His ceiling, however, is limited. The last guy for my honorable mentions, Elijah Roberts. Well, actually, there's going to be a whole list here after this. There's a lot of really interesting edge rushers, but Elijah Roberts is an odd front defensive end type of player. He's got some massive size with some great play strength. And there's a lot of interesting names in this class. There's Jordan Birch, interior defensive line type of prospect, another like Elijah Roberts. Ashton Gelati, Jared Ivey, interior defensive line prospect for sure there. Oluwafemi Oladejo, linebacker turned edge prospect. Antoine Powell-Ryland, Q Robinson, a lot of people's sleeper, some injury concerns with him. Colin Oliver and Chaz Chambliss are both previous linebacker prospects that might be moving to an edge or kind of have versatile types of roles. Savion Jones, plenty of people like him a lot. Ahmed Hassanin, really fun story kind of guy, a lot of attitude as a part of that story. You just caught him barking at the coaches at the combine, which I've never seen that before, not that I've been doing this for 40 years, but very, very interesting to see, and people will like that. And then you've got Steve Linton, Johnny Walker, Fadil Diggs, Sean Martin, all guys who I think could get drafted, could be, contributors at some points. Interesting profiles for those guys. That's going to bring us on to, of course, the actual list here. And my 15th ranked prospect in this class is edge rusher David Walker out of Central Arkansas. 6'1", 267 pounds. He's my 89th ranked prospect overall. David Walker produced as well as any edge rusher in this class. Issue is that he played in the United Athletic Conference at Central Arkansas. He did not play against a single team of note. He also has some physical limitations, but also he has a very interesting physical profile. He is short and he lacks good length, but he's built like a brick house, and he uses his body type to gain leverage against opponents, getting underneath their pads, and then he catches them with pure power, and he finishes everything off with impressive athletics. For his size, that is. He plays with an extremely hot motor. After a lengthy list of positives, I wrote that he is a chaos goblin. And who doesn't want a chaos goblin on their defensive line? He had mixed results at the Senior Bowl, and unfortunately his stock did not rise like a guy like Mike Green's stock did this offseason. But he is also just super exciting, fun, high upside prospect that is worth taking a shot on in the top 100 in my opinion. That is going to bring us on to my 14th ranked prospect here in Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, 6'4", 260 pounds, my 72nd ranked prospect overall. He could go later, wouldn't be shocked by that. Could go earlier too. Himself and JT Tuimoloau were probably the best edge rushing duo in all of college football last season. There are reasons to think that Jack Sawyer's production benefited from being opposite of JTT. Something that I don't talk about when I talk about JT is his outstanding discipline, and that's also something that Jack Sawyer brings. These guys are very well coached, very disciplined types of players. Sawyer has great gap integrity and he sets the edge well. He doesn't overreact or get fooled easily. He's a high IQ, fundamental player who I believe will have a long career in the league due to his down in and down out consistency, his endurance, and his durability. He's great at winning the fight, just not quickly, and the NFL will be even faster paced than the college game was. His pass rush upside is not a guarantee due to a lack of high-end athletic upside and his length. Really would have liked to see him test out at the Combine or his Pro Day, and that's concerning that he did not. Both could be challenges that he'll need to overcome, his length, his athletic upside at the next level. I do like Jack Sawyer a lot. I would have liked to see some more athletic testing, but like I said, he didn't do any of that. Let's go on to my 13th ranked edge rushing prospect in Nick Scourton out of Texas A&M, 6'3", 257 pounds. And this is the one guy who I am the most concerned about being wrong on. I could very well have gotten him wrong, and he could go in the end of the first round, maybe even higher by some people's standards, and he could pay off that. I wouldn't be shocked. There are just some concerns that I have for him, but he's my 71st ranked prospect overall. Nick had a down year in 2024, and some of the reason for that may be that he had to put on weight after his 2023 season, and then he went and he played at Texas A&M as well, which asks a lot of different things than where he was at previously in 2023 at Penn State, where he was just able to kind of pin his ears back and do better. He's also very young. I don't know if I wrote that down here, but that's another tip of the cap towards, the potential here for Nick Scourton. In terms of that weight that he gained, he has since shed that weight. He certainly has a ceiling. I kind of flipped him with Landon Jackson in my rankings since my earlier edge rusher rankings to give you an idea of where I originally had him ranked. Once we get to Landon Jackson, you kind of get an idea of that. I don't know how I'm going to cut this because I kind of said the stuff that I have written down already, so there's plenty to get excited for in regards to projecting Nick Scourton forward. I've said Scourton all offseason, and then I got it in my head that maybe it's pronounced Scourton at the last second, and then the Beast came out, and Dane Brugler's the Beast, and he does pronunciations, and it is Scourton. So now, all of a sudden, late in the game, I got the wrong pronunciation locked in my head for some reason. That brings us on to my 12th ranked prospect here, Braden Swinson out of LSU, 6'3.5", 255 pounds, my 61st ranked prospect overall. The title is pass rusher, and Braden Swinson is a really good pass rusher. So, hey, there you go. That's it. No. Many think that he could be a first-round pick. People who I don't ignore the opinions of are people who think that. I can't get there on him myself, but I can recognize that I think he's just really super solid. I don't have a heck of a lot of notes written under my strengths or my weaknesses for him. Apparently, there are some concerns about his maturity out there. I have no clue to what extent or how real that they actually are. I know that they came from him apparently butting heads with the coaching staff at LSU, so I assume that they're real. I just really don't know what to extent that is. That's going to bring us on to my 9 seed. Going to take a bit of a jump here in the prospects. And I've got 3 guys, of course, then kind of tied for my 9th ranked prospect. So technically my 11th ranked prospect here, Landon Jackson, 6'6", 273 pounds, out of Arkansas. He is my 54th ranked prospect overall. Landon Jackson is a hard worker who is still working on and honing his craft. And this showed up at the Senior Bowl where he struggled on days 1 and 2, but he was witnessed after hours working with other offensive linemen, and then he earned the last rep of the day honors on day 3 of practice. He's lost some weight since his 2024 season, and I thought that effort really came to fruition at the Combine, where he looked way more agile than he did on tape. And I'm betting on that being real with my ranking of Landon Jackson here, because that was a big issue of mine with the 2024 play. The favorite positive note I wrote on him was that he is a bull in a china shop. A guy who did not excite me early on in this process has forced me to do pretty much a 180 on him. I'm excited to see how he does in the NFL now. Was really impressed with how he looked at the Combine. That's going to bring us on to my 9B prospect, 10, JT Tuimoloau, 6'4", 265 pounds, the other half from Ohio State, my 53rd ranked prospect overall. And JTT will have a long career in the NFL. I'm going to plant my flag on that one. Power is his best weapon. He plays with some tight hips, but you do see his 9.33 RAS come through at times. That's relative athletic score. Mostly, I love his ability to play at a high level from the first snap of the game to the last and on every snap in between. He keeps coming, he keeps working hard and pressing on every play, and play after play, he just wears down offensive linemen as the game goes along. He's just a good, well-rounded player who his fan base will learn to adore in quick order, I'm sure. That's going to bring us on to my 9A, my 9th ranked prospect here in Josiah Stewart out of Michigan, 6'1", 249 pounds, my 52nd ranked prospect overall. Josiah Stewart is short and he has short arms. These can be real limitations at the next level. According to Brett Coleman, he's the guy that all of his teammates at Michigan said was the toughest guy on their team in the locker room. And that's real high praise at a program like Michigan. Call me crazy, but I like having tough guys on my roster in the NFL, especially in the trenches. He's also supposed to be a good character guy. Best of all, though, is that he had a 99th percentile pass rush win rate. The dude's a baller, he's a winner, and I'm willing to bet on him. That's going to bring us on to my 8th ranked prospect in James Pearce. 6'5", 245 pounds, coming out of Tennessee, my 49th overall ranked prospect. James Pearce has a heck of a lot of upside. I am not denying that at all. Top 10-ish upside. And he was even once thought to be a potential edge number 1 in this class early on in the offseason in 2024. Part of the reason that isn't so is that despite how great of a speed rusher he is, he has not developed any sort of power in his game yet. On the field, on Sundays, there's little question that he plays his tail off. There are character concerns that have been raised, and I don't know how many of those are like locker room, your typical, like when you hear character concerns, a lot of times you think locker room cancer. I don't think that's exactly the case here, but I can assure you that they do have to do with his work ethic, which is something that I caught onto myself during his media session at the Combine. A couple of things that irked me with the biggest interview of his life at the Combine were the fact that they have these shirts with trackers on them and like their number, their identifying number, and all that kind of information that they're supposed to wear when they do their combine drills and their practices, kind of their full practice at the Combine. And he somehow forgot that in his hotel room. What were you doing that you forgot that in your hotel room like that? Just simple things that your mind is elsewhere. Your mind is not on the interview. Of course, that could be nothing, but when you combine, all these other concerns around it, then you say, okay, that is kind of a yellow flag. Nothing too serious on itself, but just another one. But then I do have what I viewed as a red flag, or at least a very, very strong orange flag, with his Combine media session and some of his answers in general, but specifically one where I was like, okay, now I'm feeling like the concerns around him that you're hearing whispers of, and have those whispers have gotten much louder over time, are very, very real. So I have never, ever heard a guy not be able to produce a name when the media asks a question that they ask of every player at every position at the Combine, which is essentially, who do you look up to, or like, who do you model your game after, that type of question. James Pearce did not have an answer for that. He just relies on his athleticism. He could not be arsed to have just made up a name even and pretended like he watches tape. He's clearly not a student of the game. I have major reservations about how long he'll be in the league if he doesn't give any effort from Monday to Saturday. That matters to coaches no matter how good you are, unless you are truly Hall of Fame material, then you can kind of get away with that. But Usually you got to work up to being a problem. You can't start out as a problem your first year in the league, that's for sure. I do want to clarify, I'm reading as many tea leaves on him as I can. The tea leaves are pretty loud and pretty obvious in my opinion. It does seem, from what we can gather, that the NFL is concerned about this issue as well. All it takes is one team. He'll probably end up going somewhere in the first round or early second round. Probably won't make it to, pick 50, which is roughly where I have him ranked. But I do want to clarify, also, all these things can be true, and James Pearce could still be highly successful at the next level. He could always have a change of attitude, too. That's always possible. So, a lot of reasons to still bet on a guy who's going to be highly talented once you get a little bit later on. He's just somebody who, personally, I really wouldn't touch until, like I said, probably around pick 50. And depending also then upon my team structure, where I'm at as a team. If I'm just looking to make sure to hit on a guy, then I'm probably not going to take a chance on him until later than that even. That's going to bring us on to my 7th ranked prospect, Michael Williams, 6'5", 260 pounds, my 41st ranked prospect overall. After 3 years as a starter, Michael Williams still feels raw, and he is a project as a pass rusher. There are some excuses that he has for his play in the 2024 season, and I believed Michael when he said so at the Combine. In response, I watched his 2023 tape, and it was better. He's still young. He has a lot of physical tools that you look for. Reportedly, he's a big-time leader. I like these things. He's also dominant against the run, which gives him a nice floor that you can rely on and feel comfortable with. I like him more than I liked Lucas Van Ness, who I felt was a straight second-round prospect. The higher Michael goes, the more projection that you're gambling on. That's kind of all I know about him. I just feel comfortable getting him a little bit later than earlier on in the draft is all I'm saying. But I get it, I see it, and solid floor. That brings us on to Shamar Stewart, who probably doesn't have that same solid floor. Coming out of Texas A&M, 6'5", 281 pounds, 34th ranked prospect overall in my rankings. We all know by now that Shamar Stewart is a toolsy, size, speed, power prospect with a very high ceiling who lacks a production profile. These guys come along and they have varied levels of success at the NFL level. This time, however, there is an argument out there that the Texas A&M defense was asking these guys to do other things, and that's the reason for a lack in production. The only issue with that argument for me is that there are ways to isolate certain types of reps, maybe not perfectly, but pretty well, to find out how guys do in certain situations. And when you break it down and you get down to the situations where he's pinning his ears back, his pass rush win rate still isn't good. The metrics still are not very good for Shamar Stewart, even when you give him the benefit of the doubt, to the best of, your ability at least. I think that he's a project and a projection who is incredibly likable, and he comes with a high floor as a dominant run blocker. He appears to be a guy who's going to be a plus in the locker room, and I like that. And you combine that with his floor as a run blocker, and combine that with the potential as a pass rusher, and that's why I'm still, okay with him in the first round, prefer him in the second round. Once again, 34th ranked prospect, just outside of the first round overall in this class, which is not the strongest class ever, to be frank. So this was my 5B prospect, by the way, not quite my 6th ranked prospect, 5B. My 5A is a shock, a surprise. Not many people are this high on Princely Umanmielen. I am 6'4.5", 254 pounds. I get why people aren't that high on him. I'm being stubborn with it. I can't help myself. He's my 33rd ranked prospect overall. I have one big bugaboo with Princely, and that's the fact that he weighed in at 264 pounds for the Senior Bowl, and then he weighed in at 244 pounds at the Combine just 2 months later. And you can see that 244-pound weight, it didn't necessarily help him a whole lot at the Combine. He did maintain that 244-pound weight for his pro day, so I'm not... he didn't do any testing at that weight. I'm not sure exactly. Would have thought maybe he would have put more weight on again. I don't know. I guess maybe the league asked him to get down to 244. Maybe he prefers to be at 244 himself in that weight range instead of at 260 something. Personally, I would much rather be just somewhere right in between, around the 250s. Nonetheless, I really like the potential that I see on his tape. He covers some real ground with his first few steps towards the quarterback. I think he provides some physicality with his play, but you'd like to see more, and part of the issue comes from some erratic hand placement and footwork. At the end of the day, the man produced. He had 55 total pressures, which tied James Pearce for 12th in the FBS last year. For reference, Abdul Carter was second with 66 total pressures. Princely had the 10th most sacks, 4th most quarterback hits, and a higher win percentage than Abdul Carter, admittedly by a rather insignificant margin, like 0.2 or something like that, but still higher than Abdul Carter, or at least, in that same wheelhouse, if nothing else. So just saying, a lot of things to also like about the production profile of Princely Emmanuel, and I don't think you have to be too afraid of. You don't love, but like the numbers that matter here, I don't really care about that 40 time. I'm not asking my edge rusher to run 40 yards, and if I am, well, we're in trouble anyways. I'd like to see a better 3-cone. Love the explosive profile for him, though. And the short area stuff, once again, it's average. It's okay, in terms of testing. That's going to bring us on to Donovan Ezuraku, 6'2.5", 248 pounds, out of Boston College. My 4th-ranked edge rusher overall, and my 20th-ranked prospect overall. 25th-ranked prospect overall. Donovan will almost certainly struggle to be a 3-down player in his first year in the league. He has the tools to be solid against the run, but his size is a concern, notably his weight. The good thing is that he's still young, and when you look at him, it appears that he'll be able to put more on his frame without losing what makes him so great. That's his quickness, his agility, the change of direction ability, the flexibility, the footwork, which, when you combine all of this to his fast reaction to the snap, you see how he's able to get to the quarterback and get there fast, and that's what you love about him. That's going to bring us on to my 3rd-ranked overall edge rushing prospect in Jalen Walker, out of Georgia, 6'1", 243 pounds. I am one of the few who's a little bit in between here. I don't have him as a 2nd-round prospect. I don't have him as a top 10 prospect. He's my 20th-ranked overall prospect. First and foremost, I think that Jalen Walker is a chess piece who will bring a lot of value as a quarterback spy as well, which is an more important, position around the league, because each year in the NFL, the quarterback position gets more and more athletic. I thought that Jalen Walker came off as an incredibly mature, well-spoken, and intelligent individual, and I think that he will probably enter the media or become a coach when his career is done. Either one, I think that he would be successful at based on his interviews. A team putting him in a position to succeed will go a long ways towards his success. My opinion on how good of a player he's going to be does depend on where he goes. That said, I do have enough faith in his floor that I think that he's going to bring to any team some amount of good play. It's just going to be a matter of, if he goes to the wrong situation, depending on how high he goes in the draft, will he be a bust? That will be potential, even if he's still a good NFL player. And long-term, once again, I do have a lot of faith in his development at the next level and his ability to be good at the next level. That's going to bring us on to Mike Green, my 2nd overall ranked edge rusher out of Marshall, 6'3", 251 pounds. He is my 9th ranked prospect overall. Top 10 out of Marshall, baby. That might have to do a little bit with this draft class as much as anything. You put him against those edge rushers last year, he's not higher than those guys, and they don't go until you get into the 20s-ish. Yeah, almost. Guy Jared Verse, who I would have definitely had higher than Mike Green, although maybe right in the same bucket goes at Los Angeles Rams, where they picked 21 or something last year. Anyways, Mike Green is an absolute demon with excellent bend, and he finishes what he starts. He has 6+ pass rush moves in his repertoire. He might be overly aggressive and undisciplined, but you're going to live with that for everything that he does give you. He was 56th on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list. There have been serious character concerns raised about him, about his history. I listened to him get absolutely bombarded with questions about all of that at the Combine, and I felt that he handled that situation really well as I've seen anyone ever handle such a serious situation, such serious allegations, better than I've seen politicians handle those types of things, and they're supposed to be good at that thing. No charges were ever filed against him. The 2 incidents surrounding him could stem from one incident, and as far as we know, that incident in high school may have never happened. I don't want to minimize the seriousness of the allegations. I just also want to say that nothing did come of it, and without being able to investigate further, we don't know, is that because of who he was? Is that why did things get swept under the rug, or was there just really nothing there? We don't know. And up until now, it has appeared that the NFL feels comfortable with whatever that entire situation is. But we'll find out if that is truly the case on draft night. You see him slip. I say the more and more you see him slip, the more and more it's impacting his draft stock. And if he slips out of the first round, then you know there is smoke and fire with that situation. There is significant concern. And wouldn't be surprised if he's like, was it Laramie Tunsil, right? Who had the stuff surface like on draft day. It seems like maybe somebody's got a vendetta against Mike Green is another possibility. That's going to bring us on to the number 1 prospect in this class, Abdul Carter out of Penn State, 6'3", 250 pounds. He is my second ranked prospect overall. Positional importance is the only reason that I would take Abdul Carter over the full-time cornerback plus 8 snaps at wide receiver version of Travis Hunter. Abdul Carter has a heck of a lot going for him, but I would argue that he is not the perfect prospect like some seem to be praising him as this offseason. He is on the smaller side, both in height and weight, and I don't think that that can be ignored when you combine that with his injury history. He uses his shoulder a lot, and it's been injured. He also has a stress fracture in his foot right now that could turn into something. I will say, report just yesterday came out that I think they did reevaluations of his medicals, and apparently he passed those reevaluations, so that's obviously great for his future stock and all that. But there are also more concerns for him that could potentially impact his future and his draft stock, and are at the very least just these little yellow flags that are out there. And that's going to be both his character and actually, as part of his character, his game week preparation, not too unlike I was talking about with James Pearce, but maybe not to that level. And these things have been put into question by several scouts that have gone on record or maybe off record, whatever, with these quotes about these issues. And there was an incident where he beat up a tow truck driver who came to tow his car. I don't know the specifics on this. I don't know if he called for a tow and then ends up beating the guy because they get in some sort of altercation, or was it a situation where it's a tow truck that was coming to repossess, property because he didn't make payments on it? I don't know what the story is there. And technically, I would say that it doesn't matter. He beat up a tow truck driver. There is some concern with that, but also, he's an edge rusher, man. I mean, some teams could look at this as a positive and say, yeah, man, I want some craziness. I want a guy who's a little unhinged as an edge rusher. So, are these red flags? Are these yellow flags? Are these a little bit of a red flag? And look at what that says about his craziness. It depends the team, I assume. I would say the last flag that could be raised on him is that he's only done what he did for 1 year, but once again, that is something that can be spun into a positive. He was one of, if not the best edge rusher in all of college football in his first year at the position full time. When it comes to his play, you can just toss out all of the terms: bend, twitch, burst, explosiveness, first step, football IQ, instincts, discipline, physicality. He checks a ton of boxes. I was able to catch his media session at the Combine, which is something that I've been able to draw a lot from on players when I've been able to watch those. And for him, I wrote down that he was quick-minded and confident, but that I felt that his answers were very pre-prepared. I also wrote, in short, that he had complete but efficient answers. There's nothing bad about that inherently, but it's not a glowing review from myself either. I don't like that his answers were so pre-prepared. The last thing that I will say is that I've gone on record saying that in last year's class, I think there had been a discussion about which edge rusher is number 1. If we were to put Abdul Carter in last year's class, of course. And I still think that that would be the case. But it's a different class this year, and there's little doubt that he's a top-tier talent in this draft class. That I can say for sure. Also, personally, I like Jared versus Tate more because he combined raw power and speed. When it comes to upside, maybe Abdul still would have won that argument. I think Carter is more limited in the power conversation than Verse was. I don't like guys who only rely on power, but the more power that you have, the better as well. At the end of the day, I do spin the fact that his 1 year production as a pure edge rusher was so good as a positive, and that's what props up his value for me, is that just that ceiling, the potential ceiling that seems very much within reach based on getting more reps in the position and getting some good coaching at the next level. I think that, he just doesn't have a whole lot of reps, and he was incredibly good with those reps. And once again, that could be spun both ways, but I do spin that in the positive direction. I believe we're going to be going over the safeties in the next positional video. Thank you very, very much. If you made it this far, please like, comment, subscribe. And also, don't forget, I will be going live for the NFL Draft. I'll be here on YouTube. You can check out the videos. After I'm done, they'll go up. They'll be posted. Or you can come join me for 5 minutes, 5 hours. Any of it would be appreciated very, very much. So take care, guys. And I'll see you in the next video, which I'm about to record now.